And this has been a day, huh? Been a day. Look, we want to apologize right now. Penny Carpenter, where you at, Penny? I want to apologize because I missed her presentation yesterday because I had to go outside and take a phone call for my son. And God, I can't believe that. You know, we're here, and we had a beautiful baby boy yesterday, 7 pounds, 13 ounces. Man.
He's so cute.
Beautiful baby boy. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Yeah. So, we love you guys. Just wanted you to know that. We're so happy that, everything was good. We've been praying all morning. Everything went great. Mama's got patches all over her decision. She's feeling like a champ. Baby's beautiful, but let's get after it. Because I know I got like Secretariat, when you see those horses in the stall and they're like jumping up, fixing to come out of that gate. Well, that's what she's feeling like right now. So I got to hurry up and get out of her way. So I just want to talk to you guys this morning this afternoon. What do you believe? What do you believe? Ask yourself what you believe, okay? Because here's what I know, Lacey Del Gracia. If you believe you can build this business at a high level, you can. But here's what I also know. Penny Carpenter. If you don't think you can build this business at a high level, you're right too. So, it goes back to Kerri and I. We had super strong belief in each other from the very start, right? We knew, when her and I got together, we told each other right off the bat. So there's only one way out of this thing, and it's in a body bag. Like, okay. All right, I'm in. Let's go.
I actually said 6 feet under, and I will help them look for your body.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. Body bag kind of sounds sexier. But anyways, you are extremely hot, by the way. I got to quit looking at you. I get distracted. So, we were both raised, we're both from West Texas. We were both raised by both of our sets of parents were full of piss and vinegar. There was no quit, none of our parents. They were hard workers. But what they didn't have was a whole lot of extra. I don't know about any of you guys, but we ate a lot of beans and cornbread when I was growing up. Yeah, fried potatoes. Anybody eat a bunch of that stuff? Yeah, I don't eat beans anymore. I can't hardly eat beans anymore. And now the new deal with the kids is like Spam. My daughter said, "Oh man, you got to try this stuff called Spam." Like, I ate so much of that stuff growing up. You shouldn't eat meat out of a can. It's just the way it is. But there was, our parents didn't have any quit, right? They were always looking for a better way to raise the family, a little bit more money, to have a few different things. We never went hungry. We never missed a meal, right? But our parents always worked so hard, but their whole life they were looking for a vehicle. Both of my grandparents were in World War II. My grandpa Walton was on a carrier in the Pacific, and my grandpa Roberson was in Normandy. He actually met my grandmother in Normandy. Yeah. He actually took a bullet, had to go to the hospital. My grandmother was his nurse. They got married right there in France. Yeah. Cool story. All my parents, my grandpa Walton always had a big stack of hundreds in his pocket like this. And he never, ever worked for anybody. He didn't need to work for anybody. He had rent houses. He had a junkyard. He broke horses. He was no horse guy. And the one thing he always told me was, "Hey, don't tell grandma about this money in my pocket." But he always he was an entrepreneur from the start. He always had his own thing going. So that was, as a small child, that was one thing that I was really impressed by that. So, but Kerri and I, from the very beginning, we never let fear lead us. In Anaheim, I talked a little bit about telling Kerri on our wedding day that she was going to make me a millionaire. Well, you don't know the real story. The real story was, in our little country church that I grew up in, I went and got her. Just to be real honest with you, we'd lived together for 2 years, so we were getting married. We'd been together for a long time, but I went and got her, knocking on the door with the girls and said, I need Kerri, bring her out here. And they're like, you can't see your wife before your wedding day. I said, go get my wife, bring her out here. So we went to the altar. I wasn't what you would call a regular churchgoer, but I knew with that girl. I took her to the altar and I prayed over her. She prayed over me. And that's when I told her. I said, you're going to make me a millionaire. We're going to be super, I didn't say extremely wealthy, but we're going to have a lot. We're going to have more than the generations before us. We're going to have more. We're going to become more. We're going to have more money. We're going to have land. We're going to have the right relationships. And that all took place right there at that altar in that little bitty country church. So, yeah. Of course, because we wanted to leave. We had hardworking parents and grandparents. We just didn't have, there wasn't anything there when they left, right? We lived hard. We enjoyed life, but there wasn't a whole lot of money at the end of the deal. Kerri and I made the decision that we were gonna leave our kids and our grandkids a lot more. So, I'm just gonna talk to you guys. One other thing. I was on Joe Navarro's call the other day, and said one thing to his people, that in 2026, if anything is gonna change, it's gonna take energy and intention to make it change. Okay? Everybody that's on the virtual deal, look, you got to clear out the mechanism. You got to get rid of stuff that don't matter. You got to stop spending time and energy on stuff that just doesn't matter. Okay? This business matters. We're making a huge difference with people. Their bodies are changing. Their wallets are changing. We're making a huge difference. What are the two things that cause divorce in the U.S.? Money and health. A lot of that. Okay? So in 2026, I challenge you guys. Put intention, be intentional, and put energy into the things that need to change in 26.
Yeah. So good. I love it. Well, when we talked about belief versus fear, I always think about just imagine there's two radio stations that are always playing, Belief AM and Fear FM. And how many of you are tuned into the wrong frequency? You've got to ask yourself that question, because there are people in this room. I saw the chat light up yesterday on what's holding you back. What are you afraid of? And there was a lot of people that put those notes in the chat. And as I sit there, I literally looked over at Danny and I said, it's sad. It really, really saddens my heart to see that. But the truth is some of you are in the room, some of you are online, and you're thinking the same thing, because, the fear station always carries the loudest frequency. You've got to recognize that. And we could have missed this opportunity if we were stuck in fear, if we thought, well, I don't want to get hurt, or, what's somebody going to think of me? Because that's mostly what I saw in the chat. Well, ask yourself this. Who is going to change your children's lives? Who's going to pay your bills inside your four walls? That's the only person you need to talk to about what will someone think of me. Yeah. See, because when I came home, I said, look, we're doing this. And I had covered the TV during football season, and it was a picture out of a magazine to go to Hawaii. And he was like, what's that? And I said, oh, the only time we're going to turn the TV on is when we put the VCR tape in to show the opportunity. And he agreed. And the reality is that, we began to, yes, but we began to listen to another frequency, the still small voice. See, because that one, it carries vision, it carries long-term thinking, discipline, execution. And the reason that I was in a moment back in December of 99 was because we didn't have the money and we didn't get our son the Christmas play dress rehearsal clothes. And I know many of you have heard that story, but the reality is that was my why. Okay, nobody else is paying for my son's Christmas play dress rehearsal clothes, right? Nobody else is paying for the lights when I'm trying to figure out how to keep the electricity on and the water. And so we were just caught up. And I always looked and I said, he did everything right. Finished at the top of his class, went to college. And why is it? I wasn't cut out for college, so I became a nail technician and a salon owner. But the minute I lost my health, I lost my finances. The two go hand in hand. Don't ever forget that. And it was when someone came in and put a dream, like just started saying, what is the dream in your heart? Because I was listening to the wrong frequency. See, the wrong frequency said, girl, you're 220 pounds. No one's going to listen to you talk about wellness. You've never been successful yet, and you've been in this industry for 6 years. See, I was listening to the wrong frequency. But the morning I woke up and the belief one was playing loud, I made a decision that day. It was the only one I would ever listen to again. And that has served us for the past 26 years, that frequency. Because here's what you got to know, though. It plays the long-term game. It doesn't play the emotions, how you feel right now, who says yes, who says no, who quits along the way. Kind of like Diane said yesterday, we feel sorry for them. Our heart hurts when they don't stay true to what they said they wanted. But you see, I looked a 6-year-old little boy in the eye and I said, you will never hear your mother say, I quit. Not even for 10 seconds. And as a result of that, literally, I think about yesterday. Most people wouldn't have been here. And, when Dustin came in last week, he said, Mom, I got a little bit of a kink I got to tell you about. Because the baby was scheduled for the 23rd. And I said, yeah. And he said, we're having the baby on the 9th. And I said, we'll be in Vegas. And he said, I know. And the reality is this. See, we've always been right where we wanted to be, when we needed to be there. Our children have never taken a back seat to opportunity, but our children have lived a life that most people would dream about. And you know what my son knows? He knows the fight inside of me is still as strong for that brand new baby boy of his as it was for him when he was 6 years old. He doesn't have to question it. And so there's not a condemnation. There's not I can't believe you're not going to change your schedule. There's none of that. But if you get to be present all the time, if you get to have all the moments, I'm telling you, it's worth the fight. It's worth staying here. Because fear will always say, imagine the worst. Think about all the things that can go wrong. Focus on all of your past failures, right? That's what fear will keep you dialed into. And then ask yourself this, can you listen to belief that'll just say, can you trust it will work? Because the reality is if you can just shift that 1 degree and go, why would I not trust that it'll work? See, everything can change because belief will always focus on growth and purpose, constantly expanding your vision, but it's quiet. It'll simply just believe, a whisper, I believe it's possible. And so I want to read something to you real quick because I think at the end of the day, what we do in this life, how we leave our mark, fear will never serve you or anyone else. See, fear won't keep you in the system. If you care more about what people think of you, you won't follow up. You won't get beyond your first introduction because I hear people, well, I don't want to bother my friend. Well, half the room stood up when Daniel and Rebecca Plant were on this stage, and I followed up for 14 months. Lacey Del Gracia and that whole team, they wouldn't be here if I hadn't followed up. And my friend ghosted me. And there's a lot in here that have fallen under Jason and Tori Cuevas' team. And the reality is that she just kept ghosting me. And I just kept following up because I loved her enough to stay true to, girl, when the time is right, you're coming. And you got to do the same thing. But here's what I want to read. This was based on a conversation I had last night at the Durango. It says this, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. It is that we are powerful beyond measure. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be all of those things? We were born to manifest the glory of God within us, and as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. So I'm going to ask you this question. Will you let fear rob you of all the joys the freedoms that you can have in life, but not just yours. You got to see all the other lives that you're going to impact. You've got to understand that whenever you get to the end of your life and you look back, did you do what you were called to do? Did you impact the world the way that you were supposed to? Or were you too worried about what somebody might think of you? Were you too worried to think, well, I just don't know? No, you're not here by accident. You're not here by chance. Whether you're online or you're in person, you're here by design for such a time as this to just say, you know what? I don't care what anybody else thinks. I know what I was created for, and I know what I'm going to do. And so I'm going to leave you with this. The last thing that I recognized on my flight here, I came to direct sales at the age of 18 years old with the hope of earning just a little bit of extra money. I stayed because who I became and who God placed in my life along the way. And I promise you, if you'll get that resolve that I will never quit, not even for 10 seconds, your life's going to change, but you're going to look up and countless lives are going to be forever changed because of your yes and your decision to listen to the right frequency, to believe it is possible versus the why. You just can't. You've got to understand that it is that place. And here's what I'll say, that people don't need to believe 100% on day one, but they do need to know that you believe. And I've said all along, I tell people all the time, I will believe in you until you can believe in yourself. Because when you believe in yourself, the whole world's going to change because of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.